up, everybody? This is Doug Cartwright here, and welcome to the first episode of the Alchemy Podcast. What is the Alchemy Podcast all about? It's all about the process of human transformation and fulfillment. And I actually named this podcast after my favorite book, The Alchemist. I'm actually probably due to read that again. It's a book I try and read every single year. And for those that haven't read it, it follows the story of this young boy, Santiago, on his quest of his personal journey and how throughout this journey he uncovers, who he truly is and try and finds the true gifts of his life with a lot of help of the universe. He of course, in any popular book and story, he has a lot of trials to overcome, and looking back, he can see how these trials were actually helping him. And alchemy means a lot to me. I have a sales coaching company called Alchemy Sales Coaching. And the purpose of this podcast is to just inspire and reach a larger audience and just connect, and so that we can all feel connected on more of a human level. It's been really inspiring in my life to watch other people grow. And we all experience massive trials in our life and massive obstacles and really difficult situations where we experience grief and sadness and loss and despair. And being open and willing to talk about these conversations and talk about these topics has been such a gift in my life. And I just want to be able to bring a platform and share my insights and bring on amazing guests, amazing people who can help inspire you just to live a better life. I really believe at the core of who we are as individuals, we all just want to be the fully expressed versions of ourselves, the highest, best versions, fully expressed into the world. And so hopefully this podcast can be a gift for those, and together we can create powerful conversations that inspire change. And so I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today to kick off kind of this initial podcast. And I want to share with you guys today the 5 kind of like biggest lessons I've learned so far in 2024. Every year has brought a lot of challenges to my life. Every year has been a new twist and a new turn. And one thing's very clear in my life. I don't know about you, but I have been so bad at predicting how my life is going to unfold. I've just been wrong about everything. When we're young kids, we're growing up, we think, I'm going to grow up and go to school and get a great job and get married, and I'm going to live in this city, and this is what my life's going to unfold like. And the reality is we just are bad at predicting life. Crazy things happen. There's a death or a loss in the family or a job change or an economy change, which can greatly affect our trajectory as human beings. And so the first lesson I want to share with you, number 1, is swallowing the hard pill that our problems are never going to go away. For a large majority of my life, I was hustling and grinding and pushing through and forcing my will into the world, hoping that if I can just get everything, all my ducks in a row, that eventually my problems will go away, then I can be happy. Swallowing the hard pill that our problems are never going to go away is so beautiful, because one thing happens that I wasn't prepared for. So at the beginning of 2024, I still pray. I grew up Mormon. I'm not Mormon anymore. I pray to universal consciousness, God, universe, divine. It's all the same to me. And in 2024, I started praying to have trials in my life. I started praying for obstacles. I started praying for more problems, which is going to sound crazy, but the intentionality behind it was, I'm in a phase in my life right now where I can kind of take on a lot of problems. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. I don't have a mortgage. So the stakes are a little bit lower. So I have capacity to take on a lot of trials. And so my intentionality while asking for these problems was in hopes of, if I can go through these difficult trials, I'll then be able to become better, more skilled. Therefore, I'll be a better version of myself. And something really magical has happened that I wasn't preparing for. Of course, as I've been praying for problems, the problems have definitely been coming in. I've ended 2 romantic relationships in 2024 that were very difficult. I've dealt with financial issues. I've had a couple of health scares. I've had family issues. I've lost really, really close friends. Two close friends come to mind, dear soul friends for a long time. Our friendships went in different directions. Been dealing with these really, really hard problems. And the fascinating piece about it that's been so eye-opening for me is that when these problems have arrived in my life, my initial response to them was coming from a place of acceptance. It was like, oh yeah, I asked for this. This is what I asked for from the universe. So here it is. It's supposed to be here. And what the takeaway has been was that the problem I've actually had in my life isn't my problems. It's been my relationship to my problems. Normally in life, problems show up and it's like, I don't want this to be here. I don't want to deal with this. It shouldn't be like this. How do I get rid of this? And we fight with the problems, which creates a lot of resistance. It creates frustration. It creates anxiety. It creates overwhelm. It creates stress. And by praying for these problems when they showed up, I was kind of in a way expecting them. And so when they showed up, there wasn't any resistance. I was greeting these problems with acceptance, and this is going to be difficult, but here we go. This is what I wanted. This is what I asked for. And the process of moving through some of these issues has been so smooth. The problem isn't easier, but it's been incredibly smooth. So for example, I'm putting on a massive event for my company, Alchemy Fest, and we've hit some speed bumps along the road, some really big problems to solve, especially financially. And in the past, some of these problems would cripple me. I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'd be stressed. I'd be overwhelmed. It would affect my relationships. It would affect my health. It would affect my friendships. And when these problems showed up, I remember being like, yeah, I prayed for this. And the ease of which I accepted the problem brought such a level of clarity and insight. And it didn't bleed over into other areas of my life. And so again, the big takeaway on this thing is the problem isn't the problem. The problem is the relationship you have to your problems. The problem is thinking that you're not supposed to have problems. Think about times in your lives. Have you ever had zero problems? Probably never. Of course, we've had problems in our life that go in waves, so sometimes things feel a little bit more intense. But the reality is we're always dealing with something. And for those that know me really well know I love Michael Singer, author of The Untethered Soul, author of The Surrender Experiment, which is one of my favorite books of all time. And he has an audio program called Living a Life of Surrender, The Untethered Soul in Action. And in that book, he talks about if it wasn't this, it'd be that. If it wasn't this, it'd be that. What does that mean? He says, if this problem in front of me wasn't happening, we'd be stressed about something else. And I like to put my own words onto it by saying, there will always be a thing. There's always going to be something you're wrestling with. There's always going to be a financial issue, a relationship issue, a friendship issue. There's always going to be something in life that we're going to be trying to change or manipulate to our preference. And the reality is if we can just accept that problems are going to be a part of life forever, that they're never going to go away, the quality of your life goes up significantly because we're not trying to fight with life. We're not trying to change how things are supposed to be. We are able to solve our problems and solve our obstacles coming from a place of calm, centeredness, and confidence, which in turn is kind of the internal place you want to be when solving problems. There's another concept that I love. It's just that anxious people make poor decisions. And I believe that to be true. Like, I think of times in my life when I'm feeling really, really anxious or stressed or overwhelmed, I tend to make really bad decisions. Because if we're feeling anxiety, if we're feeling stressed, if we're feeling overwhelmed, we're actually out of integrity when we make decisions. Because if I'm feeling a lot of anxiety and I want it to go away, I will tend to choose the decision that will subconsciously make me feel less anxious, which is very different than what is the best solution to this obstacle. Right? If I'm really, really anxious, I don't want to be anxious anymore. I'm going to tend to choose things that might not be in alignment with correct problem solving. It's all about me. I don't want to feel anxious, so I'll do whatever it takes so I don't feel anxious anymore. And we tend to just make a bigger mess of our issues. And so accepting that for the rest of your life, you're going to be climbing a mountain. Even if I wrote you a check today for $1 billion, Initially, you're going to be really excited. You're going to go buy the jet and the house, and you go on the trip to Cancun and, buy all the clothes and the cars or whatever. And for a moment, you're going to be really, really excited. Life will seem smooth. But even if you had infinite money, you are still going to have to work on your relationship with your partner. You are still going to have to work on your relationship with your friends and family. You are still going to have to work on your health, right? You're still going to have to work on your physical body. And so with that being said, for the rest of your life, you're always going to be climbing a mountain. And the sooner you can swallow the hard pill that there is no shortcut, the smoother your life begins to become and the quality of your life enhances. So takeaway number 1 is swallow the hard pill that your life's always going to be hard. The second thing I've got here, and this is a Tony Robbins formula that I've really embraced in 2024, and it's the formula that he shares of state plus story plus strategy equals success. Now, what does that mean, right? So the first input is state, and your state is going to be your energetic relationship that you have with life. I like teaching in extremes, and the extreme example is if you're a major sports fan. Think about a major sports fan. They get all fired up before the big game and they do the face paint and they wear their jersey and they get locked into the game. And we all have a friend or know of someone who's a diehard sports fan. And think about that person, and maybe it's you, maybe you're the diehard sports fan, but think about that person in a situation where your favorite team wins the world championship. How does that person feel? They're elated. They're bouncing off the walls. They're screaming. They're jumping up and down. They're running around the house. They're waving their shirt over their head. They're feeling really confident. They're feeling inspired. They're feeling like they can go talk to anyone. They're open, right? That's the big key here, is they're energetically open. They're going to feel more confident, talk to a stranger. If they're single, their team just won the championship, they're going to hit on the girl at the bar. They're going to be laughing. Everything's going to be happy and joyous. Their energetic state is open. And in using that same analogy, if that friend or that person, their favorite team loses the world championship, they're on the ground, they're in the fetal position, they're closed off. They're disappointed, they're frustrated, they're in a bad mood, don't talk to me the rest of the night, right? I have to go to work tomorrow, I'm gonna be grumpy, right? Something that had nothing to do with them. A bunch of people, gathered together to play a sporting event based upon the plays. One team wins, another team loses, and it completely affects the quality of life for someone. So when I say state, I mean your energetic relationship to life. Are you opened and closed? And listen, if you're open or closed, you can feel it. Like, ask yourself right now, am I open in my life or am I closed off? So when I mean state, it's staying energetically open, enthusiastic, engaged, optimistic, inspired, happy. And that the state, right? The first part plus story, which is what's the story you're telling yourself in your head? Maybe you're telling yourself that everyone's bad, no one likes me, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable. Or you're telling yourself, I can figure this out. I love talking to strangers. I love the way I look. I love learning new skills. Everything that happens is an opportunity for me to get better. So you ask yourself, am I telling myself a positive story? And then the third input on this formula is strategy. So this is going to be your actual skill set. I work with a lot of sales guys. So this is going to be like, what's your actual way you overcome objections? How do you actually close? How do you ask for referrals? Like, that's the actual tactical piece. And everyone who has a job, you have to have some level of tactics. Maybe it's you're great at Excel on the computer, or maybe you're a graphic designer, right? It's your actual tactical skill. So the formula of success is state, your energetic relationship to life. Are you open? Plus story. What does the internal dialogue sound like in your head? Plus strategy. How good is your skill set? And the thing that was fascinating about learning this formula from Tony is he says, if you had to weight the level of importance of these three inputs, how would you weight them and percentage wise? And most people would say, 33, 33, 33. But the reality is, in the success formula, 80% of success is your energetic state with life. 80%. 15% is the story you tell yourself. and only 5% of success is your actual tangible skill set. And, this was eye-opening to me when I first went through this. And because of what I learned to realize is if 80% of my success is based upon my state of being, then priority number one in my life is to get into peak state. Like, that's priority number one before the perfect business plan, before, strategizing what I'm going to do with my career, before, which friends am I going to try and, engage with and be friends with. 80%, I just have to get into a peak state. Like, getting into peak state is the most important thing I can do on a daily basis. And when I wake up in the morning, what I've been doing, this massive lesson is teaching myself my number one job is to get into peak state. And the number one mistake I've been seeing right now, I'm a coach, I work with hundreds of people one-on-one, and the number one mistake I'm seeing people make right now is we get into a negative state. We don't see results in career. We get broken up with. We have financial struggles. We kind of lose track of our health and we get out of shape. So our state goes down, it closes off. And when our state closes down, that's going to affect our story. I'm not good enough. I can't figure it out. I'm never going to be rich. I'm never going to be a top performer. I'm never going to get a hot girlfriend, right? That affects the story. And then what we do when we're in a negative state and we're telling ourselves a negative story, we try and focus all of our energy on strategy. When the reality is you cannot out-strategize a negative state. You cannot out-strategize a negative state. So when you're down, things aren't going your way, you're feeling off, rather than trying to get the perfect game plan or try and think your way out of a situation, your first priority is, I've got to get into peak state. I've got to get myself into a peak state. So that's been a major focus of mine in 2024 is waking up in the morning and opportunity number one, get into a peak state. So how do I get into peak state? Takes us to number 3. And this is a new habit I've actually implemented just in the last couple of weeks. And I learned this from a new friend named Zach Seeger. Zach Seeger works for a pest control company and he's like the all-time GOAT. He sold like 1,200 accounts in one summer, which is like ungodly. And he taught me about something that he does called the mixtape. And I've put my own twist on it. I call it the Peak State Mixtape. And this habit is going to sound corny and cheesy, but I'm telling you guys, it is transformational. And so what Peak State Mixtape is you literally grab your voice notes in your phone, your voice recording, and you just create an audio recording of you hyping yourself up. So it's going to sound like, yo, Doug, you're the man. It's time to get going, bro. You got to pick it up. And then I'll list off all of my goals, right? I'll talk about my relationships, what they feel like, what they look like. They're deep, they're intimate, they're loving. You have an amazing supportive partner. You have a phenomenal family. You are the coach of your kids' high school football teams. Your house is full of love and enthusiasm and joy and connection and inspiration. Talk about my financial goals. You make this much money per year. You inspire this many people. You help this many people in your coaching program. Your events have this many people. And it's just hyping up. It's like, you got this. You're the man. You're in peak state. You have a phenomenal body. You're sexy. You're attractive. You're fit. You're healthy. You eat really good food. You get 8 hours of sleep every single night. You are pleasant to be around. And I'm doing this in like a really intense voice. And I kind of, wrap it up with like, let's fucking go. You got this. You're the man. No one can stop you. And I'll put really fun music to it. And so this is something that I listen to right when I wake up. So I wake up, I listen to it. Then I go to the gym. I'm an early bird gym guy. I'm a big 5 a.m. guy. We'll talk about that more on another podcast. But I love 5 a.m. It's quiet and the sun's just about to come out. So my warm up at the gym is I always do a walk on the treadmill at 3.5 and then I go 15 on the incline. And I'll listen to my mixtape probably 4 or 5 times as I go through this warm up before my workout. And I still, to this day, I get the chills. And I just feel juiced. It's like I have my own self is just gassing myself up. And I tell myself I've achieved these massive goals that feel, I would say majority of my goals that I write down, they feel unreachable. Like they're really big, scary goals. And I read them out as if they've already happened. You did this, you made this, you invested in this property, your future wife is amazing and beautiful and sexy and sensual and your love is inspiring. And I just feel it in my body and it makes a massive difference in my whole day. It just gives me this energy. And I've noticed in my interactions, my business has gone up. I've added more clients. I've been invited to more like events. I have great business opportunities. I've met some amazing women recently. Like it's crazy how much this simple habit that takes 3 minutes impacts my life. So takeaway number 3 is the Peak State Mixtape. I love that name for it. Shout out Zach Seeger. Incredible concept and idea. Cool. Number 4 so far, biggest takeaways in 2024. Going back to this peak state thing, how do I get into peak state? Is anytime I catch myself feeling off or feeling self-doubt. I feel a lot of self-doubt. I've got a lot of fears. I have some big goals with my business. I feel like I'm behind a lot. I feel like I've made bad business decisions, bad investments. I'm single. Like, am I going to find a partner? And so there's a lot of self-doubt that creeps in. And when I can catch myself at times speaking poorly of myself, I'll catch myself sometimes, really putting myself down. And if I catch myself in that situation, I'll get out a clean sheet of paper. And I like to make a list of 20 things I've accomplished in my life that I'm really proud of. Some examples would be, writing a book, starting a sales coaching business. Some of them are like getting up at 5 a.m., learning how to cook, very simple things like learning how to cook, going, putting on a family trip for my family, things like that. And when I remind myself of the things that I'm proud of, it tends to ease the negativity of that voice inside my head. One of my favorite quotes, and I share this in my book, Holy Shit, We're Alive, is if you treated others like you treat yourself, you would have no friends. And that's such a great reminder that we tend to be a lot harder on ourselves than we would on anyone else. And so this activity of making a list of things you're proud of, what it does is it builds self-belief, and it changes that narrative and that story in our head. So if you're looking for a way to kind of get out of a slump or a rut, give this a shot. Pull out a clean sheet of paper, write out 20 things in your life you're proud of. They don't have to be big things. It could be, I'm really proud that I got out of bed this morning and made coffee. It doesn't matter. It's just something that you've accomplished recently that you're proud of. Make a list of it. Remind yourself of that. And that'll help you get out of that funk. And the last thing, this is actually one of my favorites, is a mantra that I've been sharing with myself. And what's a mantra? A mantra is a phrase or a word, a saying that you repeat to yourself as a reminder. And the mantra I've been using this year that's been so beneficial is the mantra of, I can handle this. I can handle this. Again, if we go back to the beginning of the pod, we're always going to have problems. We're bad at predicting our life. Things are not going to unfold the way we want them to. And where the fear actually is that we think that this is going to ruin us, it's going to break us, and that we really just can't handle it. Right? I'll never forget a couple months ago, I got into some back taxes. For those that know my story deeply, in my early 20s, I made a lot of money in my sales career. And then I went through a dip where I wasn't making a lot of money. But my spending habits didn't change, right? It's a trap. And then I had to owe some back taxes. And so at one point I had like $300,000 worth of back taxes over a couple of years. So about 5 to 7 years ago, I started creating a plan to get out. And so I started saving money. I did some investments. I had a great couple of investment opportunities come up that hit. And last summer, I was so proud. It was about a year ago this time. I was so proud I finally paid off my back taxes. It was like, I was very disciplined. I was very dedicated. I was very determined. I made a game plan. I got it done. And I paid off these hundreds of $1,000s worth of taxes. And I was so proud of myself. I was like, yes, I got myself out of that hole. And then a couple weeks after, I get a letter from the IRS. And I read this letter. And it says, there was a accounting error and you actually owe an extra $120,000. And for a brief moment, my stomach dropped into my gut. I was like, no way. I was pissed off. I was frustrated. I was angry. I was overwhelmed. I was stressed. It was starting to come up really, really quick. And then I caught myself and I took a big breath in through my nose. And I just told myself, I can handle this. I've done a bigger number in the past. I can totally handle this. and I just relaxed my body. I relaxed all the tension. I relaxed all the frustration. I leaned away from the anxiety inside my chest, and I just said, I can handle this. And I sent it to my tax accountant, and literally 3 days later, they realized it was an error, and I didn't owe the extra $120K. And I remember thinking, like, wow, an older version of myself would have been overwhelmed, stressed, anxious. What am I going to do? And I would have wasted 3 days of my life feeling stressed and anxious about a problem that really wasn't even a problem. It reminds me of another quote that says, the majority of the things you stress about never happen, right? Majority of our fears actually never happen. And so the mantra of I can handle this allows you to move through life with a level of confidence and with ease that's going to allow you to be more effective and efficient in problem solving than if you're stressed and anxious. So I want you to try that. Take that mantra. The next time something happens in your life that you don't prefer, right, which is going to be all the time, I want you to tell yourself the moment you get the bad news, the moment it hits you, take a big deep breath in, relax, and tell yourself, I can handle this. So I really believe at our core, if you peel back all the layers of the human experience, all we really want is we just want to be okay. I just want to feel okay. I just want to feel relaxed. I want to feel at ease. I want to feel love. I want to feel joy. I want to feel enthusiasm. I want to feel okay. And by using the mantra of I can handle this, it gets you into that state quicker. And when you're in that state of feeling calm, of steady and strong, your ability to problem solve, your ability to fix complex problems goes up, and you're able to move through these issues so much more smoothly. And so combining that in with that concept that your problems are never going to go away, right? And going back to that first point of praying for problems, I realized this too, kind of wrapping all this together, is I'm going to deal with problems for the rest of my life. I can either deal with these problems feeling stressed and anxious and overwhelmed and that it's going to ruin me, or I can deal with these problems with ease and calmness and steadiness and confidence that it's all going to work out, right? If things weren't going to work out, that probably would have happened already, but here we are. So I'm excited to share more of these concepts with you. Again, number one, problems are never going to go away. And then the problem isn't the problem, it's the relationship you have to the problem. Number two, state, story, strategy. Love this formula. Get into Peak State. Number three is the Peak State Mixtape. So I'm going to encourage you, after this podcast, go make a quick 2-minute mixtape on your audio recording. You might make 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of them. It doesn't matter. No one's going to listen to it. It's not being produced, right? This is just for you, the Peak State Mixtape. Number 4 is be kind to yourself, right? Make a list of all the things you've accomplished in your life that you're proud of. And the 5th thing that's been a massive influence for me in 2024 this far is the mantra, I can handle this. I can handle this. You can handle this. We can handle this. Welcome to the Alchemy Podcast. I'm really excited to see what's in store for all of us. Big love, everybody.